What's good? What's good? What's good? Welcome back to another episode of the Group Chat podcast. I'm joined as always by the father. Your Will is in the building. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm here. I'm alive.
Sometimes that's all you can say a week with two kids. Is I'm alive. I made it through the week. That's
Two kids and a wife and a boot.
Hey, where's the boot at?
I don't know where. Fuck that boot at. Probably on our foot.
I'm your host, the most disrespected nigga since they shot JFK. Where do we want to start here? Let me pull up my docs, man. I had some. I was good. See, there's some shit I can't put in here because there's some shit. It's like a real time disagreement in the group chat, and I'm like, yeah, that made for some good content. But then I'm over it like an hour later, and I'm like, I ain't gonna bring that conversation back up. But for the petty side of me, we had a very minor, brief Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard conversation. And even though niggas told me I was nuts the way I had an opinion, niggas disagreed in what they were saying while they said I was nuts. So just want to get the petty side out the way first.
And I mean, that was more so you and Tony back and forth, though.
Nah, nigga, you was in there.
I think I said one thing. Oh, no, let's get into it.
One comment justified. First off, if you put in one comment, like, we all busy, we all got shit to do. It's not like any of us are going back for like hours and hours on anything. Like, let's be clear about that. Nobody is spending that amount of times. Like, once you've thrown your name in there, like once, like you put you bought a ticket for the lottery, my nigga, you played the lottery. It don't matter how many tickets, don't matter how much money you put your ticket in, that's the lottery. So
I don't even know that I disagree with you though, but let's go. Let's see.
I said, so it's a tweet, and I know why. I always feel like when, and this is a thing with Tony, because I talked to him probably most about this shit, is any opinion I have on Anthony Davis, I think is always coming off skewed. Like, that nigga just thinks I like wake up and like I'm angry at AD still. Like, I don't. In the moment, was I? Yes,
man, yeah, because you be scoring sometimes.
I'm an upset fan. No, that's facts. I'm a scorned, upset fan, and that's fair. But with that being said, like, I don't feel that way about Chris Paul. I don't feel that way about David West when he left. I don't feel that way, and I don't feel that way anymore about Anthony Davis. Now, if I had made that comment,
I think the difference is Chris Paul ain't leaving won a title either.
Man, see, I don't know who that hurt more, me or him.
But I'm just saying, because like Anthony Davis left and won the title. And it's like, I don't know if I heard you call Chris Paul your favorite player since he left New Orleans. But carry on.
That's debatable.
Carry on.
So anyway, so I'm always gonna get
because whatever Melo when I was there, but that's just me.
Yeah, I still say Chris was the best point guard in the league once he left. And when the Clippers were making runs, I was fucking with the Clippers. Or at least I was rooting for him once they hit the playoff time, because the Hornets wasn't making the playoffs those first couple years after Chris Paul left. And so now, so anything I say is gonna sound like a scorned fan. That's cool. I can live with that. But it was like AD versus Dwight, and I said, I think, and we talked about Dwight a couple weeks ago, so we don't have to really rehash that. But I said, to me, Dwight was the better player and had the better career. Now, that is obviously a temporary comment, because if AD and LeBron win another title this year, then AD's career eclipses what Dwight did, and that's cool. I'm fine with that. But I'm not.
Is that what you said, like verbatim? Like, I don't know if you're looking at the messages or not.
No, I'm not looking at the messages. It was a tweet from Stan Van Gundy, or I guess he did an interview or whatever, and the tweet was talking about what he said, and it was like, I don't know how you could put AD over Dwight Howard, either as like a total career or the top 75 team. And I said, I agree. I don't necessarily agree with the person saying it, but like, I agree with that individual comment. If I'm doing top 75, Dwight going over AD, and if I'm going career, as of right now, I'm putting Dwight over AD. And I'm putting better player Dwight over AD all time. At the moment, like I said, AD is obviously still playing. I mean, Dwight's playing in Taiwan or China or where the fuck he's at, but I don't think that's really gonna boost him up on a whole lot of niggas' credits. I'm sorry. Oh, is this shit gonna fall down? Be careful. All right, but so yeah, as of right now, Dwight is the better player and has had the better career than Anthony Davis. Obviously, like I said, that is subject to change. AD get a second title. AD get a defensive player of the year. AD get there's other accomplishments he could have that would put him over Dwight Howard, obviously. Not denying that at all. But as of August 27th, 2023, Dwight Howard's the better player and has had the better career. And then you came in there, or no, Tony told me that now that shit don't matter. I'm not putting AD down to raise Dwight up. And he's like, and AD the better player anyway. And your response, if I'm correct, is you said AD had or you put Dwight as the better player, but AD having the better career.
No, the other way around. I said Dwight had the better career, but I said I think AD is a better overall player.
Okay.
Like when you talk about skill sets and things like that. I mean, that's what I said.
All right. So it's
because I think a nigga could be a better player, but maybe like when you look at Anthony Davis, and I ain't never been a big Anthony Davis guy anyway. But when you look at his injury history and kind of say and even when he was in New Orleans, it is what it is. He wasn't I don't think he wasn't able to kind of carry a team to a finals or no shit like that the way that Dwight was. Even though I don't know if that team was necessarily built around him the way it needed to be.
No, they jumped.
But I think when you talk about skill sets or whatever, I think I feel like Anthony Davis was a more skilled player.
That and that's its own conversation. And
because it's I feel like a nigga could be a better player, but somebody else could be more dominant. So it's
oh yeah, that's the Shaq argument. There's mad niggas more skilled than Shaq, but
yeah. So and I don't even think I ever said who I would take over who, because I don't really give I'm not about to sit around and argue Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard.
No,
shout out to them niggas though. But no, that's what I said. I feel like Dwight had the better career. And I feel like Anthony Davis is a better overall player.
It's obviously close, but like I said, I'm not gonna stay here very long. That was just I had to get my petty out because I was like, wait, niggas just told me I was wild and then disagreed, and I was like, wait a minute, all right, whatever. And I
never told you. I don't even know if I don't know if I disagree with anything that you said. I think
now you and Tony had different takes. I think Tony said AD had the better career. I think he said AD was better career and better player.
Yeah, no, I said, let me see, I actually got it up. I said I think Dwight Howard had the better career. AD obviously. I said AD is obviously the better player, but I don't think it's a debate on either side of that. Or I don't think you can argue Anthony Davis having a better career than Dwight Howard. But I also don't think when you look at their games on both sides of the ball, I don't think you can argue that Dwight Howard was a better player, better overall player than Anthony Davis. Or like I said, on the defensive side of the ball, some people could argue that it might be close, and it's yeah, I know Dwight Howard got the defensive player of the years, but that type of shit changes throughout the years, as far as how it's scored and how they determine who they giving it to this year and shit like that. And Anthony Davis has been injury prone, so it's
he ain't really available for awards anyway because he generally don't have enough games to get the quote unquote credentials.
Right. So it's so I think a lot of people depending on who you ask, a healthy AD versus a healthy AD in his prime versus a healthy Dwight in his prime, as far as on the defensive side of the ball, is I'm sure you got some people that would take AD.
I think the argument's
and it's when you're talking about and then I think when you talk about the offensive side, I think Anthony Davis is a better offensive player. I think Dwight Howard was more dominant on offense.
No, that's a fair take. And these aren't mind you, it's not necessarily a wash either way you go. One of my standards is I do daily sports, so a lot of times I gotta, in some of these conversations, I kind of just gotta figure out the most consistent way to assess these things, right? And one of the big things I've looked at over the years, especially for NBA, is do I think at any point what was your how were you viewed across the league, right? Because I think somebody like when you get into like the really nerdy basketball arguments, I think Jason Kidd should be higher on a lot of niggas' point guard list than he is, because Jason Kidd was the best player on the Nets team that went to 2 finals. Jason Kidd, even though he couldn't shoot with shit, but it didn't matter when he played, was the best player on the finalist. Ended up
That's
getting
a
a
wild. That's
ring.
a wild narrative around Jason Kidd when like he was like third on the all time 3-point list for a while.
Yeah,
That that's always been interesting because he hasn't like for the most part of his career he was known as somebody who couldn't shoot and somehow managed to be third on that list like around the time Ray Allen retired and shit. And when he retired, I think he was third.
Yeah, no, when he started all that shit is like second half of his career. If Jason Kidd could have shot like that in the beginning of his career, and as much as like, and I'm one of those niggas who would tell you like, yo, Kobe and Shaq, if they really liked each other, could have got 5 or 6. The Nets could have beat the Lakers if Jason Kidd could shoot like old Jason Kidd. But like, and Jason Kidd was definitively the best point guard in the league at the time he was playing. But nobody's really gonna bring up in like the all-time conversation. Like he just gets like niggas don't talk about him. Like he is not in the conversation for like even top 5, which I think he is arguably. I think there's a really good argument for like 4 or 5 for him. Like obviously think Magic's better. Obviously think Steph's better, which we're gonna talk a little bit about. I
See,
think
but I don't like. I guess it's like weird because it's like you don't often hear people go. It's like who are the top? Like I don't even think it's that he's not in the argument. Like I just don't hear those like conversations often in general, like top 5 point guards or whatever. Like these days, a lot of the conversations around who is the best or like like. But I don't think I've heard like I don't know if I can say that I've heard a lot of top 5 point guard conversations that didn't involve him in them. But I also don't think I've heard a lot of those conversations. I mean,
I don't feel like niggas even put him on the like who do you pass type of conversation. Like, so you're right. There's not like a whole lot of top 5 point guard conversations, but there is a lot of like, when do we think you passed like the last great dude, right? Like, obviously, Magic's been in the class by himself forever, right? But like, niggas have had like Steph versus the original Isaiah Thomas. Like, oh, do you think he's now better than him? Steph passing Chris Paul, like that was a conversation at one point, especially head to head wise, when Steph started busting his ass for 30 every time they
I
played.
think, but I think that's the only reason it was a conversation though, because they were still like going
They were
head to
playing each
head.
other, but like
That's what I'm
Steph,
saying. So I think it made that conversation easier to have. But like, when nobody talking about like when he was passing other niggas, it was like they not gonna talk about you every time you pass a nigga that might be in the top 10. They're gonna talk once you kind of closing in on that top 3.
no, that's fair.
And I guess I mean, but like I said, because I mean, for the most part, like a lot of people, you got. I mean, I guess you got Magic Johnson. You hear people talk about John Stockton, and of course you get Chris Paul in there.
John Stockton's not
Uh,
a top 5 point guard. That
but no, I'm
I'll
saying
die
that
on that
I'm
hill.
saying what you hear people talking about. Like
No, I
niggas ain't
know.
never heard me put John Stockton in the top nothing in my like. Come on, nigga.
I got and since we already started off with sports, this wasn't supposed to start here, but Steph got, and now mind you, um Steph went on Gil's podcast, and Steph said they asked him, yo, you think you're the best point guard ever? And I've always been a believer, if you were even in the conversation, right? Like I think if you ask Kobe, Mike, Bron, and there's probably you could argue even Magic for a point, like, is you the greatest nigga to ever play the game? And I think they would all tell you yes. And they all got the valid right to feel like, yeah, I could tell you yes. So when you Steph and you are in the room, like you're the only nigga that probably the majority of people will acknowledge you are in the room with Magic as the greatest point guard ever, right? And somebody asks you, oh, you the best? You should say yes. And you should feel like that.
See, I only seen the clip. I didn't see the full thing, but I didn't even hear him say. Yeah, I heard him say, "Yeah, it's me and Magic, right?" Like I thought, that's what I heard him say. Like, oh, it's only me and Magic in the conversation.
So
I don't even know if I actually, which I don't know if it was a long clip or maybe I didn't watch the whole thing, but I don't even know if I heard him definitively say, like, yeah, it's me, I'm the best or whatever.
so it's not like no, if you want like for like a context, like when LeBron was asked, like, yo, that made me like that series made me the greatest ever. He didn't say it like that, but he said, Gil asked him, yo, do you think you're the best point guard ever? And he said yes. And then Gil kind of like he kind of was laughing. And Steph was like, well, you think about it, it's really just got to be like me and Magic. Like that's the only
See,
dude
that's
you
what.
could
Yeah. See, I
say.
think the clip I seen was like, I think I seen the clip that said like, oh, I seen Gil say, hey, are you the best point guard ever? And Steph kind of laughed and said like, oh yeah, it's me and Magic, right? Like as if it's only us in the conversation. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, I got you. Let me
yeah.
see. We'll get the clip.
And so I think that now I understand, and because obviously, like, I mean, Magic stopped playing before I was alive, right? So I can't really sit there and be like, even though we've all seen highlights, we've all seen like the impact of Magic Johnson. I wasn't watching Magic on a daily basis, obviously. Um, I think the conversation really opened up last year, where it was like you could really say like because Magic was in one of the few positions in sports where he had an unquestioned position. Like Mike had it forever, and then obviously LeBron started creeping up in there. But like Magic had an undisputed best point guard ever. Niggas didn't even say anything different. And then I started to once after they got the fourth ring, I was like, someone phrased it pretty well. He was like, I think Magic's the greatest point guard ever. But if you tell me to make a starting five, I want Steph to be my point guard. And I
See,
think
but
that's
that's why
kind of
that.
where I'm at.
But I think like even like when you talk about like somebody like whatever the comments they saying, whatever they allegedly saying that Mike said, we don't even know if that shit is true. Number one, uh,
Oh no, the Mike Stephen A text message is definitely not real.
but
I
like
don't.
even still, like the fact that like niggas like anytime like it's time for like Steph to get into like when you start having those type of debates around Steph, niggas want to try to make it seem like he's only a shooter.
Oh yeah, no, Steph is underrated now.
Like that's the first thing they say, like, oh, he's the greatest shooter. Like they try to like, come on, like we done seen niggas that only shoot. Like we done seen like Kyle Korvers and Jason Capone. Those niggas are like great shooters.
Yo, we got a Jason Capono shout out. Listen, 20
Like
minutes
I'm
into
just
the
saying, but
pod. Let's go.
like you seen like niggas that are only known for like their shooting. Steph is a great shooter, but it's like you can't like to you're gonna have to do more than just try to minimize everything else to kind of make the debate against it.
Well, look at the finals last year. The Celtics played him like he was only a shooter. And so they played him to like, yo, nigga, pass the ball. And that nigga was passing the ball. And I think the stats changed after like game 4 and 5, but like I think the first 3 games of the finals last year, like the nigga was damn near averaging a triple double. And so it's like Steph is now, and I say that with these are the great equalizers, right? Like I don't think anybody in their right mind is saying Steph is as good a passer as Magic. I don't think that's a conversation. Like Magic,
See, but
greatest pass.
not real quick though. Like not even just that. Like niggas like every time you talking about point guards, that's the only thing niggas act like matter when you're a point guard. All niggas want to talk about like who is a better pet. Like come on, my nigga. Like
Well, I
all
mean,
right, I get it
that was
before.
the
I
position
get
for
it
50
before
years.
2012, 2013. Before then, I guess that's what it was. But like niggas try to say, oh, he not really a point guard. He a shooter guard. Like no, like the nigga evolved the point guard position. He
I
a point guard. He's the reason that like he's a they try to say, oh, he not really a point guard. He a two guard and a point guard body. They try to say that for Steph. They try to say it for Dame. Any nigga that's a point guard that can score the ball, like no, the position it evolved. Like you got point forwards now and shit like that. Like come on, like
oh yeah, no, LeBron don't play like a small forward from 50 years ago. Don't mean you're not the
like
greatest small
I mean
forward
they
ever.
are they gonna like niggas that say Luka is a point guard just because he
Handles the
averaged a
ball.
triple double, or they say James Harden was a point guard because James Harden was averaging a triple double or whatever. Like, all right, whatever, like, come on now, that shit is
No,
stupid.
the niggas who can really pass, and I know this is gonna sound like and I'm like the stat niggas hate this, but like the niggas who could really pass, there is a clear difference, right? Like I don't even think, and that's why John Stockton is not high on my list at all. John Stockton made one kind of pass. He just passed it to the same nasty nigga about 20,000 times. They did pick and roll. This nigga did bounce pass or throw it into the post. And that was it. So don't come up here telling me because John Stockton got the most assists ever, he's like the greatest passer ever. To me, like when you go like the greatest passers ever, and I do think Steph is in this conversation, I got Magic, I got Chris, I got LeBron. I think Steph is in there, and probably Bird, because Bird was a crazy passer considering like time and era, especially. Like those are some of the greatest passers ever. And I know there's a difference in like, yes, there are niggas who are scoring first guards and only pass kind of as a is a symptom, right? Like they're not really passing to set up the offense. Like we all love them, but like no one got D Rose on like their greatest passers ever list. Love him, but he ain't. That's not why we all love D Rose. Steph can actually run an offense. Steph's passing.
Yeah, but niggas say that's not why we love. That's not why we love Steph though. Like
No, it's
that
not.
same.
It's not, because he has something that is so overwhelming. Like Magic's passing is so overwhelming that even though Magic was getting damn near 20 a night, niggas only acted like all he did was average 10, 11 assists. Because I think Magic is the greatest passer ever. Because Steph's the greatest shooter ever, which is what makes the conversation actually interesting. They both are the greatest ever at one specific thing. It overshadows everything else they do. So like Magic is not, and not saying like Magic's like some crazy great score, but 20 and 10 for a point guard in the 80s wasn't happening. Like that was just not a real thing.
But it's like, and niggas like, then it's like when you kind of get into like these like pound for pound conversations, like my nigga, you was 6'9".
Oh yeah,
You better give me 20. You better give me 20 and 10. Like the fact that like a 6'2" nigga is like even in this conversation with you.
No, I agree. And that's why niggas don't like, if you pull up all the stats, it's like now it is kind of nuts, I will say. And Magic obviously Steph's already played more games than Magic ever played, but like Magic still got 5,000 more assists, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But I will say what makes Steph interesting, like a lot of these conversations, is like I could argue Steph's one of the 3 greatest players ever solely on the fact of how many like all-time greats are not attached to a historically great franchise and are not attached to a clearly better situation. Magic as a rookie had Kareem. LeBron as a rookie had Drew Gooden and Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Steph as a rookie had Monte Ellis. And then obviously Mike. Like Steph, Mike, and LeBron took franchises that without them are not noteworthy. Like they are literally.
But it's like I think, and even like I would take LeBron out of that though. Like, and not saying like LeBron. Of course, LeBron made Cleveland noteworthy, but I feel like Steph made them a dynasty. Like they
1,000%.
Cleveland, like even with LeBron going and leaving and coming back and winning, nobody ever looked at Cleveland like a dynasty.
No, it's fair. LeBron was a moving dynasty.
And it's like Mike made Chicago a dynasty, like the Chicago Bulls a dynasty. Steph made like Magic walked into a dynasty.
Yeah.
Like it was like they was the niggas when you got there.
No, it's facts. Like
so it's like when you kind of look at something like that where where a nigga took a bottom tier franchise and like made them like damn near the number 1 organization in the NBA for the last however many years.
They just want to do what y'all do during practice. Like, no, it's a fact. It's like as much as we all love Kobe, it's like Kobe don't even got that. Kobe had Shaq when he was young, and even you could argue like getting Powell when he was older. Like those are things not every like all time or even just any great player is afforded. And so that is to the difference between Steph and Magic. There's a real argument. If you put Steph on the Lakers and you put Magic on the Warriors, you clearly got 2 different careers. And I could argue Steph's career is only greater because we saw him do it with a franchise that was not notable. And it's not like you had some crazy nigga come in to help start that shit. Draymond is a 2nd round draft pick who we do not know without Steph Curry. Clay was a good player, bottom lottery pick who we do not know without Steph Curry. Like the Warriors are not
like without Steph Curry, Klay Thompson might be Buddy Hield somewhere. And that's no disrespect to Buddy Hield.
No, 1,000%. Like Clay could shoot, and you can't take that away from him. Same way Buddy could shoot, can't take that away from him.
3 and D. There's a lot of 3 and D niggas in the league,
but only one played next to Steph, and that's why one nigga got his nickname, and the rest of them is just like, oh yeah, Buddy Hield's a nice player.
Like you know how many niggas in the league you could put next to Steph and they'll still be the splash brother.
And so yeah, that's like that's the one big thing. Like if you want to have like a real argument like Steph versus Magic, and I am slowly more and more like I think Magic's still probably number 1 slightly, but Steph is like if Steph were to get another title, I think Steph easily clears Magic. Like in the most non-disrespectful way I can say that. I think if Steph were to somehow get a 5th title, I think he easily clears Magic. Not like he's
See, but even aside from that though, like when you talk about like making somebody pick like they are, like say you tell a nigga to pick like they all time top five that like won't that like oh can't nobody beat this team like
Steph's there.
Steph is gonna be there for most niggas like except the niggas that wanna that except for like the old niggas that don't wanna change with the times because it's a handful of niggas you can put, not even a handful. There's one nigga you can put in that's gonna be in this list to where you don't need a Magic Johnson. Like if you got LeBron in your starting five, you don't need a Magic Johnson.
LeBron, Mike, Steph. I always say Shaq because I am biased to just that point in history, but I'm not mad at niggas saying like Kareem or even Hakeem.
And it's like if niggas like wanted to put Kobe, like you could say Steph, Kobe, Mike, whatever, or like even you got some niggas that say, all right, well you don't need Kobe and Mike. So if you say Steph, Mike,
I try to
and
say
whether
true
you
to
want
the
to put,
position a little.
so yeah, I would say like a Steph, Mike, and we calling LeBron a small forward. I'll probably go. I would go like a nigga like me. I don't know. It's so many options for power forward. I would go like a Dirk or a KG or something at power forward, and then a Shaq, probably a Shaq at center, and it's like
now Dirk and power forward would be crazy in that lineup
because you got your second shooter. You got two shooters out there. You got LeBron that's gonna dominate the paint. You got Shaq that's gonna dominate the paint. And then you got Mike that's gonna do whatever you need him to do. I mean, Mike, it's your at shooting guard is your pick. You could Kobe, you could do Mike, you could do Anthony Edwards. Shout out to Baby Mike.
Hey, definitely shout out to Anthony.
See, but I don't want to hear niggas start acting like he that nigga. Now I was the nigga that picked the Timberwolves over the Nuggets just because of Anthony Edwards.
Oh no, I know you
now
were
I'm seeing
time.
now
You were back to
now
back.
I'm seeing
You picked the
now
Timberwolves.
I'm seeing niggas like acting like, oh man, no, this nigga is really good. I got listen, man. I was already there. I see niggas getting there now though.
This nigga picked the Rudy Gobert led Timberwolves team twice.
That was never the Rudy Gobert led Timberwolves. Now I did see some shit on Twitter, which hopefully we could probably get ready to get on. I don't know what other basketball shit we got, but hopefully, like I did see some shit to where they was like the Blazers could trade Dame Lillard to the Timberwolves for Cat.
I see. Now I might be bugging, and
I don't know if that like I don't think that makes them a championship team, but I think that makes them more competitive than they are. Like I don't like Rudy Gobert and Cat playing next to it. Like Cat trying to play small forward. That ain't it.
Man, look, and we said this. I said this a little bit during when we did our NBA shit or the playoff preview. I'm just not as high on Cat as like the rest of the world is. Like I understand.
I've never been.
I know he talented as hell, and like when you Cat to me feels like the nigga who's benefited the most off of being somewhat like a guard at 6'11", right? Like there's niggas who we know can play. Like Jokic right now is the best example of like he's super skilled as a 7-footer, and Embiid is crazy skilled as a 7-footer. And because of that, I feel like Cat just being good at those, not great at those skills, has gotten like up a level or two from where he should be. Because I don't think Cat, if we be like, I remember I saw it was like
he's like the third best option on a team. Like he's a great third best option on the team. Like I've never been big on Cat. I'm like I don't know. Like I'm not a nigga that'll put any type of trust in Cat. I'm not a nigga that'll put any type of trust in Rudy Gobert. Me picking the Minnesota Timberwolves to beat the eventual champions was solely based off Anthony Edwards. I don't even know who else started other than them three. so me making
Mike
that.
Conley. Well, you don't got no respect for Mike Conley.
Mike Conley like 50, but like so it's like I'll say like yeah, shout out to them niggas, but yeah.
Nah, it's Cat is
but I do like even though Rudy Gobert is like extremely overpaid, I do think he's like
there's value.
There's
value. Like the niggas make fun of him.
It's value in a nigga that whose primary role is playing defense.
Absolutely.
So it's like I wouldn't pay that nigga that type of money, but like I wouldn't say, yeah, like I wouldn't say that he was like invaluable. Like if he could play, He could block the shots around the rim, get a couple putbacks and shit like that. Like he's extremely overpaid and they traded way too much for him. But
No, it's
yeah,
facts. No, it's
but yeah, they could definitely get rid of Cat and make it like if. But I don't even know who do you trade. Who do you get in return for Cat? Like
if you get Cat for Dame, I think that's a steal
I
for
mean that's a
Minnesota.
steal.
I think that's a steal for
That's a
Minnesota.
steal, especially like I mean if you could like I think if this was 2 years ago, you probably could have got that done easy, and you probably could have got something extra like just off projection, like off of what niggas projected Cat would become. You
Oh
probably could
yeah,
have got Dame and like a future draft pick or some shit
they could have got
because
Dame and
niggas
CJ.
niggas would have thought niggas might have thought like at some point Cat would be the best like center in the league at least.
Man, that was shout out to y'all niggas. I said when they did that future of the NBA shit, and they
He
had
ain't
Cat
got
with
that dog in him.
KG. There was like Cat's literally like Kevin Garnett but better, and I'm like, y'all niggas got Kevin Garnett fucked up because there ain't a damn
He ain't
thing.
got that. And I actually think I think Cat is a good player. I think he just like he ain't got that dog in him.
That's facts. Nah, that's
Like
facts.
I think he a good player. I think like if you relying on him to help you win, you're not gonna win.
That's also facts.
Now if you relying on baby Mike, you got a chance.
No, that nigga's so much fun to watch. That's a nigga who don't even got a market around. That's a nigga who doesn't need marketing. He just like he being himself is marketing. Like
No, for sure.
Timberwolves don't fuck
For
it up.
sure.
Y'all will, but try not to.
Y'all
Staying
nigga
in.
trade Cat because Cat don't even know that like that ain't his team right now. That's the problem. When you got a nigga that don't know that it ain't their team, like you gotta go. Like at some point,
Yeah,
like y'all niggas gotta tell him, like, nah, he the nigga. Like you robbing.
you need that.
Like
Cat needs to be like. I don't know if this makes sense in my head. Cat needs to be like how Rudy Gay was in Memphis. I think if you said pound for pound skill wise, Rudy Gay was the best player on those Grizzlies teams, but that team went through Zach Randolph. And then eventually
for
Zach
sure.
Randolph / Gasol. Like even if Rudy was the only nigga who could say like, oh, he could get you 25 a night. And I don't think he ever averaged that, but Rudy Gay could score. But like he had like the self-awareness to be like, yeah, we better let these two big niggas go down the block. We play in the low 90s. Like that's a
I mean, but
better
I think
outcome
it
for
was
our
also
team.
because they played inside out, so it's like you had two of the top probably 10 big men in the league,
Yeah. That's the
top
thing
10 to
though.
15 at the time. So it's like, and I mean, they like I said, I think Cat is a good player. I think Cat he got himself ranked a lot higher than like he actually is though.
No, it's a fact. And you said talk about playing inside out. Cat thinks he's the out. This nigga
Oh yeah,
tell
he
them
definitely
niggas
think he like this nigga waving off screens and shit. Like nigga, like why are you calling the ISO at like come on my nigga.
Hey yo.
You got a point guard on you. You calling the ISO at the three, trying to do step backs and shit.
Oh shit. Uh Staying somewhat in the realm of sports. Because the example comes from there. When do credentials not become enough?
Break that down for me. What you mean?
So we know, and the nigga I'm gonna go out right now is Stephen A. We know there's niggas who have qualifications. They've either been in a certain media for X amount of time, they've done a profession for X amount of time. Like they have legitimate credentials. Like they are, like if you just put their ass on like piece of paper, what they've accomplished, they're there. But at what point do like just you having enough credentials should it not matter? Stephen A, for whatever reason, this last week decided to tell niggas like, yo, I got mad sources. I got sources on this nigga. I got sources on him. On Monday, it was the source on, Stephon Diggs won out of Buffalo. And then Stephon Diggs and this whole team basically told this nigga like, yo, you don't got none of our numbers. They posted a bunch of shit on Twitter, and it was like, we don't know you. Like, we know of you, but we don't know you. So like, what the fuck you talking about? And then on Tuesday, he told, yo, I got a source. Lonzo could barely sit up and down. Lonzo put up a video of this nigga sitting up and down. And it's funny. And I think harder than like the average nigga, like I don't think regular niggas could get up and down as quickly as he did on one leg. I'm gonna just say that. A lot of niggas would struggle with that. As a formerly out of shape nigga, I could imagine myself struggling with that about 8-9 months ago. Now, and then Stephen A comes back though, and every time like he's been called out, not just these two instances, but he's been called out a lot over the past year, is he goes, I did journalism from this year to this year. I did X amount of years at the Philadelphia Inquirer. I did X amount of years like studying for this. Like he's like, I've been to this many NBA finals. Like it's like, nigga, we know you have credentials. We know who Stephen A. Smith is. That don't mean you didn't just get on TV and blatantly lie. So at what point, like, are your credentials not enough?
See, but I think the wild part is like instead of just kind of being like, all right, maybe my sources gave me some bad information, like you get upset at the nigga for proving you wrong. Like you get upset at the nigga for proving like, oh, I can sit up and stand, I can sit down there and stand back up, like with no problem. Now it's like, oh, you not healthy. I know your doctors and all of this. Like, so it's
Yeah,
like
like
you mad at this nigga because you said something that was incorrect and he went online and proved it. But that's the thing, like the problem is like, and Draymond kind of was talking about this shit a couple of years ago with all this new media shit when he was on this whole new media thing, because it's like these niggas are used to how things were back in the day. Like, but if you get on TV, if Stephen A get on TV tomorrow morning and say a lie about a player, and my nigga, they're gonna take 30 seconds, go on Instagram and say, nah, this nigga lying.
yeah.
And like niggas wasn't able to do that back in the day, so it was different. So like you could say some bullshit and it'll take for a nigga to get an interview or something months down the line or later on to kind of be able to debunk the shit. And by then, niggas don't care no more. Niggas done forgot about it by then.
That's fair.
Versus like, if Stephen A say some bullshit tomorrow morning by noon, a nigga go be on his Instagram somewhere say, yeah, that nigga lying, y'all. He lied again. he lied again, y'all.
And
But then it's like you got the nerve to get mad at that nigga for saying like, nah, that's not true.
And not only do you got the nerve, like, my nigga, you went like, so you said the Stephon Diggs shit, and it was like Stephon said, yeah, no, that's some bullshit. And you came out the next day and it was like, nah, I got some more sources told me Lonzo can't sit down. Then you come out on the third day, and not only now he does the Stephen A. Smith show after first take. So we responded on the Stephen A. Smith show. I think that was Tuesday night when he was like, he changed it to like, well, no, I know you ain't healthy, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, my nigga, that's not what you said. And then he comes out the next
And Lonzo
day.
never said he was healthy.
That's right. Now, I will say, and someone did point this out, and I went back and only watched about like 2 minutes of it, so essentially a clip worth from the Lonzo Trey interview that Trey did, because all these niggas got podcasts now, is Lonzo was talking kind of like, hey, yo, my career could be over. And I don't know when that interview took place. I don't know how recently the surgery was. So I could understand someone like, I think Lonzo's 23 now, is like, yeah, a 23-year-old who's had multiple surgeries, hasn't played half the games he's been in the league. Yeah, I could imagine him being in a space where he's like, damn, am I ever going to do this shit again? Especially a nigga who was growing up really only knowing basketball. Like, we all know the story, like, between the dad and shit's like I was supposed to do this my whole life. I was great at it in high school. I was great at it in college. And now my body's fucked up. So I can understand in a moment him being like, damn, like, yeah, I feel a way about this shit. Like, I might not ever really play again. But then Stephen A comes back on Wednesday. And out of like, and I don't know if he's just sick of it in terms of like, oh, these niggas don't think I got real sources. Like, oh, they don't believe me. He won't sit there and quote, yo, I just got this text message at 5 o'clock in the morning. This nigga told me I am tired of the Steph Curry, Magic Johnson debate. There is no debate. Magic Johnson is the greatest point guard ever. Magic Johnson shot 50% from the field. Magic Johnson had this many assists. And he's like, and you know who sent me that shit? Michael, Jeffrey, Jordan. Nigga, Mike ain't up at 5 o'clock in the fucking morning. He definitely said, you know,
I thought he said it was like a friend of Mike's or something like that. But even aside from that, like
he said Mike texted him at 5 in the morning reading off Magic Johnson stats, telling him, yo, that's the great. Mike don't give a fuck.
Not even just that. Not even aside from Mike not giving a fuck. We don't give a fuck if Mike said that shit. Like, shout out to Mike for being like, Mike is the GOAT to me. Like, Mike, in my opinion, Mike is the GOAT. Like, that don't mean I give a fuck about his opinion. What you want me to agree because Mike said it? Like, bitch. Like, come on, my nigga.
Like you, and it's like
Like it don't matter who, like whoever you think is the goal, whoever your favorite, like Melo is my favorite player. Melo could come out and say some bullshit. I ain't gonna be like, oh well, Melo said it, so I guess that's what we rolling with. Like the fuck?
no, this is no, it was funny as fuck because like you know how, like some niggas when they get caught in a lie, like they just gotta double down and like they gotta double down with some extra shit.
See now, if Mike would have got on live and said, yeah, he lied, y'all. Yeah, yeah. Like my nigga, I slept until 10 today.
Hey yo, imagine Mike putting out a just woke up at like 10:33. Like I just woke up, looked like a lovely day outside.
See, but you know how crazy it is to have sources, because I could be like, yeah, man, I got this text right now from Steph Curry that said, fuck what Mike talking about. I'm the GOAT. Like I could just say it, and like if I had enough followers on Twitter or some shit, niggas will believe me.
That
Or like Instagram, like niggas will believe niggas. Oh yeah, he do got like 500,000 followers, so he might be telling us, man, he might not be lying.
that nigga paid for a blue check mark. Like,
yeah, man, I got to pay for my blue check mark.
What you call it? Excuse me. Yeah, no, it's like it's Stephen A. And I said this thing like a couple weeks ago because we were talking about another thing with him. You are who you are, and you are in such an established position, my nigga. You could just be average like the rest of your career, and your career is solid. Trust
like,
me.
you don't want to be a nigga that do too much and start tarnishing your name and legacy behind this shit.
Like, yeah, it's like niggas can call Skip washed, and Skip is, but even like Skip, who's always been outlandish, it's like he not changing from that formula. He just continuing to be outlandish, and niggas could be sick of it, but like he doing the same old Skip Bayless shit until he finally decided to walk away. It's like you could just be average the rest of your career. Like you don't need a Mike cosign text. You don't need a making up sources about a nigga. Like you could just be you.
And the problem is niggas don't give a like. Come on, man. Like I ain't sitting around waiting for no Michael Jordan interview to see what he got to say about the NBA today, my nigga.
Is there any like? That's a good question. Is there any old nigga whose like opinion has like value? Like across the board, any old nigga you think if they came out and said some shit, niggas, because like Magic's
Nah, because
definitely.
like I mean, but I think it's like you get a lot of niggas that can say some valuable shit like as far as old niggas, but I think it's like it ain't too many superstar niggas that like or like MVP level niggas who I feel like opinions will be valid. Like not saying that they don't know the game, but it's like so many of them niggas speak from the perspective of like, oh, the game was better back when I played, to where it's like y'all not even able to really speak on this shit in a non-biased way. So it's like even when it comes to a nigga like Shaq, and Shaq is like a nigga who you know, he shows like love to like the Warriors and Steph Curry and shit like that. But then anytime it comes to centers, he's like, you know, he a certain way when it comes to any big man and like all the different big men in the league.
Oh yeah, all them niggas
You know,
should be on
because
drop
he don't
steps.
because of any type of conversations that might anything that might land them into a conversation where it's like, oh, Shaq versus this person is like he get more on the defensive side. So it's like I think
That's facts.
I don't know. And then I mean, you got niggas like Charles Barkley. You know, he could see like he could see something happening and still go against it. Like even though he watching it with his own eye, oh yeah, a team
That's
can't win shooting threes, and you watch the Warriors win title after title after title, and it's like going into it. So it's like it's so many of these niggas where it's like I mean, and it's some of them that like I mean, like I think Kenny Smith, he got a lot of good like I've liked some of his interviews that I've heard from him, but I don't think it. But like I said, and that's when I say like MVP level niggas, like Kenny wasn't like an MVP level nigga, but you know he look at it more from like a he's more open minded when he look at it versus the MVP level niggas because it's all about my era versus their era. Like, oh, these guys couldn't have did that back when I played.
oh yeah, everybody like to and I get it. It's like it's human nature, especially if you were that great and you would nigga like if niggas told you like you was unfuckwittable while you were doing shit, and Shaq is like the epitome of it. is like your peak was so high and you were so big, so dominant, like niggas couldn't fuck with you. It's real easy to take that to tell like, yo, I could have done that in any era. I could have done that shit in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s.
See,
I
but
could have done that shit now.
And Shaq might be the one nigga who like that because I don't see a nigga today. Like I don't see a nigga in the league today that I feel like can fuck with Shaq.
I don't either, but that don't mean I
But
don't think.
but even the fact that Shaq like get defensive about it sometimes is like, come
Like
on,
my
my nigga.
nigga,
Like
just be you.
you can really brush that shit off and just say, yeah, whatever, like type of shit. Like you ain't even got to go into like. But it's like Shaq is the one nigga who like probably translates to every era. Like Shaq is still Shaq today, in my opinion.
I think I think so. Like, and I won't stay here super long. Like, I think Shaq is. I think the only thing Shaq don't give like enough credit to is like, yeah, Shaq is probably the one that was like every era you put him in, he does his numbers. Shaq, you also are like when the Warriors had like KD, my nigga, you wasn't stopping them. And I've said like Shaq could score 60 against the KD led Warriors. Them niggas is
Oh
gonna
no, for sure.
shoot and go for like 150 on you, and it don't
I'm
matter
just
what
saying
your stat
I'm
line
saying as
is.
far as his numbers, as far as like his
Oh,
numbers and
he'll
the
go
numbers he can
60
put
and
up,
20.
I feel like Shaq could be Shaq in any era.
I agree. I
And
agree.
and I feel like Shaq playing against those Warriors teams, they're gonna let him score 80 points.
Yeah.
Like they not gonna waste no fouls, or they gonna
Not
put
why.
Zaza Pachulia in and shit like that. Stop going and fouling as much as you can, but like
Trip that nigga.
other than that, they gonna say, well, two is more than three.
That's yeah. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, and you supposed and you are supposed to show some grace if it's like, I always said it's like when I've played like sports with the kids and shit, it's like, my nigga, if I could sit there and go dunk on like a fourth grader, like I ain't supposed to sit there and be telling people about that shit. Like, hey, I just busted this fourth grader ass. Like, my nigga, you 20 something, you 6'9", like you what? And Shaq, you basically the adult playing against kids. So it's somebody say some shit, yeah, brush that shit off. Don't think nothing about it. Is Meek Mill corny?
I don't know.
I have you
Like
have you
I don't really be paying attention to like a whole lot that Meek do online over the last couple of years. So it's like I can't really say.
have you seen the clip? We'll make this quick. Have you seen the clip of him trying to buy shoes?
Yeah. When the guy was trying to like oversell him or some shit, and he was saying like, "Oh, I can get him for."
The guy was selling them for what? And I'm not a sneakerhead, so I'm going off what like the comments are basically telling me, right? Because I don't actually know the shoes and different styles and whatnot. But the nigga sold them basically for full price, whatever full price was some sneaker convention, whatever. And so there's niggas who had money there and they were trying to buy shoes. And the nigga said, "Yo, I'll give it to you 500." And Meek said, "Oh, that's full price. Why would I pay full price? You're supposed to give me the discount because if I get the discount, I'm gonna shout you out. You're gonna basically get a commercial out of it, some free promo, all this shit." He's like, "You're supposed to sell cheaply to me." And nigga said, "No, I got to sell the shoes for this because I already paid X amount for them, and so I got to make a profit. That's the whole reason I'm here today." And sold me the shoes for $500. And then he went to another nigga who said, and I guess somebody else sold him like 10 pairs for $100. And I guess all of them were supposedly that was for the low. And niggas was like, so wait, so just because you Meek, I got to give away like $2K worth of shoes to only get $1,000 from you to hope some other nigga thinks, oh, because Meek bought this shit, I'm gonna get more shit.
Cut that down. But no, you ain't got you. I mean, no, like I don't even think it's a situation where it's like a nigga got to though. Like I think it's more so like I think it's more so a thing where it's like I mean, and I guess I see how niggas could like look at Meek away for it, but it's like to me, like he makes sense. Like, but I don't think it was from a perspective of like, nigga, you gotta do this because I'm me. But I think it was more so like if I'm in it, I watch nigga like I watch like different streamers and like podcasts and shit like that, and it's like niggas that send them merch for the shout out, like they sell clothes, they got a website and they send it to this nigga for free because they know he gonna wear it on the show and he gonna shout him out. And it's like, yeah, this shit, I might sell this shit for $100, but should I sell it to this nigga for $100 or should I just say, here you go and let him shout me out on the show?
No, and that's
So it's like one of those things to where it's like, and I don't think like I mean, because did Meek still buy the shoe?
Meek about to shoot 500, and he ripped that nigga. He tore that nigga up. Posted not only that video, but he posted another video of him basically saying like he aired him out in terms of like, yo, this nigga at this like I said, it was some kind of shoe shopping spree, whatever the fuck they was doing, like essentially like a flea market, but just for shoes. And he's like, yo, don't trust this nigga. Like he trying to like he basically blasted him for not selling him the shoe for the price because he was Meek. And that's the part I thought was corny. Is like
that's corny if that's what happened. Like I said, I didn't see everything. Like I seen that initial clip where it was like where he was telling them like, oh, you supposed to give it to me for whatever, for 300 or whatever it is. And like I said, like, I mean, maybe the fact of you having to tell a nigga that, like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have to tell a nigga that, but it's like, I don't know, like, I do think, like, I think coming from that perspective of it is like, you really giving a nigga like advice, like, hey, like, if you got a business going, like, sometimes you take a loss to help you more in the long run. Like sometimes, like I get it, you trying to make a profit, but it's like, all right, do you feel like, and even from the perspective of like Meek bashing this nigga online or whatever happened was, yeah, if he did that shit if that was the reason he did it, then yeah, that shit is corny. But like, do I think Meek is a nigga with enough like influence and enough of a following to kind of make a difference for a nigga like you, like selling shoes? Yes. So it's like, do I think like I could have said, all right, here you go, Meek. I'm gonna take $200 off of this. Do I think I could have made more money like just off of a Meek Mill like shout out or some shit? Because there's a lot of niggas who like maybe it was one of those sneaker things where niggas get shoes early. It's a lot of niggas that be looking for people to get where they could buy shoes, like buy the new releases early and shit like that, and they spend that extra money for it. So it's like, but a lot of times you don't know who to trust. You don't know if they're authentic. So it's a lot of people that might look and say like, oh shit, Meek bought his shoes for him, so he got to be legit. Let me shop with him. So I think it's other multiple ways to kind of look at it. But like I
that's
said, I didn't get into the whole. I don't know like the whole situation, but I definitely think like, and I think the fact that Meek still bought him is like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it would have been more corny if he was like, "Oh, well, because you ain't giving me the $200 off, I ain't gonna buy him at all." But I think the fact that he still kind of bought him and said, "All right, whatever." But I felt like it was from a perspective of like, all right, like if you're trying to grow your business and you see somebody that could potentially help your business, like sometimes you gotta consider doing things that you wouldn't necessarily want to do. Of course, I ain't talking about doing no crazy shit, but like if you said like, all right, I'm gonna get this motherfucker a discount, or hey, you can have these, just give me a shout out online or some shit, tag me in a post and shit like that. Like, I think if you're a business owner and shit like that, I definitely think it could be beneficial. And I think some shit like Meek do is just looked at corny, like it's just looked at corny because it's Meek. Like I think Meek, some of the shit Meek has kind of done over the years has left like a sour taste in like niggas' mouth paws. But like niggas like to where it's like niggas are gonna be overly critical of like the shit that he does.
Nah, Meek is his era's game. Like he's way too accomplished for like, and some of this shit he does, like as well as he raps, as successful as he been, there was definitely niggas, and I sometimes am guilty of it from moment to moment. And it's like, my nigga, you tripping to be like I said, I think it's weird when niggas trip when they like that successful, that rich. Maybe it's because I'm not there yet, but it's like, because to me, I blow off mad shit now. If I had $1 million in my bank account, the amount of shit I'm blowing off, nigga, you can't hurt my feelings. I don't give a fuck what you say. Like, if it's not
But
criminally
even
indicting, I don't give a fuck.
no, and even still like even something like that though, like and even something like the whole sneaker situation. That's why it's like it could be looked at as corny. It could be looked at something that he probably could have just paid the 500 and kept it pushing. But it's like you got some people that's going like you got some people that might take that advice and say like, oh yeah, you're right, that makes sense. Like, and you got some people that's like, nah, I'm gonna give me my money. So it's like it's some people that probably heard that and they got these opportunities to kind of be like, yeah, maybe yeah, you got a point. So like the next time I get a chance to kind of give something to somebody, a celebrity or something, like I'm gonna just here have this. Can you at least tag me in a post or some shit like that? Like
No, that's
that
true.
that type of shit I think is valuable these days.
No, that's definitely fair exposure. We're gonna be sending Rihanna a hard foul shirt right after this episode ends. Hey man,
Shout
with
out to
that being
Rihanna.
with
Hold on,
that
what
being
is that? Was that it? Was that the last topic?
that's
What's this
last time.
niggas in kitchen shit?
Oh, that's just like the weekly joint. That's like if you got any story, like if anybody got stories, that's why. Because right under that shit is I think it's like this week and being a dad. That's just kind of like
Oh yeah, yeah.
if shit happened like during work or during the week.
Let me
I'd
see
have
before we go. I want to see if I got any videos before we get up out of here.
oh see this nigga see this will be fucking with me. Will be sending me text from time about oh nigga I got to bounce in 5. Then now he's like nah I got a video extra
No,
second.
I really did because you heard the kids coming up. That was my cue because she had them locked down in the basement. So once she let them free, it was like, all right, my nigga, it's over with.
Hey, this nigga just said had him locked down in the base. Hey, no, you got to watch out. It's
Well,
2023.
No, they were in the basement like that. Her and the kids were in the basement. You know, we got all the little place, all the toys and shit down there.
No, I know what
And
you're
so
talking about.
once she let them go and come up, it was like, all right, my nigga, it's time. Because I told her like, yeah, 7:30, I'm gonna be relieving you.
See, when niggas lie, that's see, I
No,
miss.
it wasn't a lot. We were supposed to start earlier than we started, nigga.
That's fact. But no, it's that is true. But don't act like that's not the same shit when niggas be like, hey yo, babe, don't worry, there's only 30 seconds left in the game. No one did.
See, no, but
You know
we
that game
actually
ain't
just
gonna
see,
end
look,
in 30 seconds.
Look, she just sent me like the eye emojis, like as we talking, like, come on, my nigga, like, where
hey,
you at?
Hey, it's your call, nigga. We don't gotta run the videos. We can say the videos for next week.
No, I ain't really got shit. But yeah, like we was talking about like the other day, like when I used to be playing 2K and I'd be like, oh, it's only a minute left. And then she had to realize like, yeah, if it's a close game and I gotta go to the free throw line, the clock stop. So that 1 minute might take 5 minutes.
No, that's how a lot of women learn sports. When you start telling them like, hey, now when you had a football game on, it's like, oh, there's only 45 seconds. My wife has looked at me and been like, but they got 2 timeouts. I'm like, when the fuck did you know what the timeout signal was?
Like, all right, I gotta get out of here.
Hey, no,
kids
man.
need me.
Absolutely. Hey, appreciate everybody as always at our Tiger 9080 at Wilbell _NVO at _HFN. We're gonna see y'all next week, man. We out.